Pringle Evans, and I am so appreciative of you being here with us on today. You know, it's February, and during the month of February, we are celebrating Black history. And as I stated before, Black history should not be for 1 month. It should be every single day for what African Americans have contributed to the United States of America. But what we're doing, celebrating Black women of the past, the present, and even some of the future ones. So we are so excited for today's show because today's topic is Black women in leadership. And I have the right guests who can really help us to understand what leadership truly means and what 3 outstanding women have contributed to the United States history. So we are on, how can I say this? We are on fire today. That's right. We are on fire. And I'm so happy that our guest, Jennifer Criswell, is here as well today. So I want to just say, hi, Jennifer.
Hi, Jennifer.
Hello, Linda and Victoria.
So let me do this. I said I had the perfect expert in leadership with us today. And it is, not only is she an expert, an authority in leadership, but you may say I'm a little prejudiced because I think of her as my own daughter. I truly do love this young woman, and she has done amazing things. So let me share with you some of her amazing credentials, okay? So you'll know that when you hear her, this woman knows what she's talking about. So my guest today is the one and only Victoria Baylor, Ms. Victoria Baylor, who is a passion. Let me just rephrase this. I know for a fact how passionate Victoria is about helping people. I know we have discussed it. We have had 5:30 a.m. prayer calls together every Monday morning a few years ago. So when I say she is about helping people to discover their unique brilliance and reach their goals, this woman truly is about business, and she does that when she works with individuals, organizations. She brings out the very best in a person. Victoria is a certified executive leadership coach and organizational development consultant. She's a TEDx speaker and keynote speaker. And let me also say, she is a columnist for multiple publications, and she is the host of her own podcast. So as you can see, this lady is quite busy. Not only is she busy doing all of that, she is the founder of Victoria Baylor Leadership and Organizational Development Solution. Let me just say this. She partners with service-based leaders, companies, and organizations to help them increase their effectiveness by leveraging their greatest asset. And what did I say this woman is about? Their greatest asset are their people. People. This is what this woman is phenomenal in. Her empowering and creative style of coaching and consulting helps leaders and organizations improve their engagement, communication, and employee retention. Now, I know that's something all of you are looking for, maintaining those good professional employees. Now, let me also share this about Victoria. Over 10 years ago, I call her Vic. Vic found her true calling and purpose in leadership and mindset growth when she realized how easy it is for women to lose their identity to the roles they serve. a challenge she overcame. She shares her insights and personal story in her TEDx talk. You are who you are, not what you do. This experience, combined with 15 years as research science and 16 years as an entrepreneur, led her to help others to further unlock their own potential. So help me to welcome my daughter, and I should say my surrogate daughter, because I don't want to offend her mother. My daughter, the one, the only, my love, Ms. Victoria Baylor. Welcome, Victoria.
Oh, thank you so much, Mrs. Linda. I mean, oh, just warms my heart anytime I'm in your presence. Thank you so much for having me as a guest on your prestigious show. You know how much I just adore you. So thank you. You're definitely a trailblazer for women.
Oh, darling, thank you so much. That's, it has been my life mission, helping women. But we're going to get this started because you are an expert in leadership. And I know some people define leadership in different, everyone have different meanings for leadership. Vic, share with our viewers, how do you define leadership?
Well, that is a really, really good question. And I love that you prefaced it with so many people have different definitions of it, because that is so true. And oftentimes those definitions kind of collide and people really lose the essence of what leadership entails. So you want to strip all that away. Leadership is less about position of authority, what position you hold in your company, organization. That's part of it, but that's not the full encompassing fact of leadership. If you had to boil it up and distill it down, leadership really is about one word and the ripple effect of that word. It's about influence and one's ability to have influence. And when leadership is done right, that influence trickles down to how people can develop the potential of other individuals to obtain a certain result. So there's just these steps that have to take place in order for true leadership to happen. And as I think I heard Simon Sinek say very well, leadership really isn't just one particular event or thing. It really is about the consistency.
Yes.
Person doing something over and over and over again, building that trust, building that foundational understanding of what they really represent, what they're about. And at the same time, exuding this essence of, it's about other people and how can I get the best out of them and influence them to do what's actually in their best interest, even when they don't know what that is. So that's how I like to look at leadership. And I have to be honest, because I can relate to a lot of people. For years, I had the wrong impression about what leadership was. I thought it was the person that had the position. But when you really start working with people and you understand, it takes a little bit more than position to get that respect and that buy-in from people. And you start to realize it's deeper than that. So I love being a part of this and helping to educate people and helping them see the leadership qualities they have. They too can lead, even if they don't hold that position of authority. We all have the power to influence.
Yes, I love that, influence. And we all are influenced by various people on a daily basis. When you think about it, every day someone is influencing us in some capacity. And I love the fact that in leadership, when I think of it, I feel as a good leader, you're always looking, as you stated, to bring out the best in others. And a good leader is, for me, is always positioning someone to come along and take their role at some point in time. I do. For me, when I worked in corporate, I was always looking at who could take my place, because I wasn't planning on staying in the same role. So you want to have the right person to be your successor. So I've always felt that way, even within my own family, looking at my children, who has the best leadership qualities between my son and my daughter, because I want to make sure everything I've worked for, when the time comes, I'm doing the right thing by appointing the right one to make sure things are taken care of when I'm gone or when I can't. So leadership is defined in so many, many nuances. So thank you for that. Now,
And if I could add one quick thing, I love that you said this, just if I could interject, what I heard you say, which is so true and is so foundational, leadership at its core is completely selfless.
yes,
It isn't about you. It isn't about creating your reigning, I mean, of course, we all want reputations and we all want to leave a legacy, but it really
yes.
is about passing that baton and keeping your eye on that baton the whole time, thinking, how can I pass this off to someone to continue that great results? So I love that you said that, because you can really judge the heart of a leader based on how they look at themselves in regards to everyone else. And selflessness has to be at the root of that.
It does. Even at this very moment within the WomeNomics movement, and I think I've shared this with you, I'm looking at right now who can become my successor, because that's important to me. I want the work to continue even when I'm no longer here, or if I can't do it anymore. It's crucial to me. It's a critical component of being a good leader. But here's a question for you. What do you think are some of the challenges that Black women face in leadership?
Oh, that is a hot potato right there. You can pass it off to someone else. I love that question. And I think there's so many. And I think being able to say that, and to say that without coming from a place of animosity or finger pointing, is an important thing for women to be able to do,
Yes.
especially Black women. It's really important for us to be realistic about the environments we're in and some of the challenges we're dealing with, because it allows us to put on, if we're smart, the right type of armor that's going to protect us in those situations. And I have to say, to address the question, and then I'll talk a little bit about my experience with that, but there's just a lot of it has to deal with, I think Shirley Chisholm, I read something about her, and she said it's almost like a double, she used a terminology, but it's like almost like a double negative. Being a Black woman and then being female, we have to be realistic about how we're perceived, because those perceptions usually oftentimes create our experiences. So in corporate environments, and oftentimes even in business environments, there can be some negativity attached to Black women, as far as perception-wise, maybe the way we're viewed, the way we handle conflict. Sometimes, often, the data shows all this stuff, so it's not something I'm making up.
No.
Data shows that oftentimes women will react the same way as other races, but theirs is perceived a little bit more negatively. We look at the fact that when you think about, there's a lot less women in senior leadership. So that's a huge challenge for women. So when you're talking about coming up from a manager position and rising up in the ranks, there's a lot less Black women to choose from, because a lot of them don't have sponsorships. They don't get the support they need to really be able to push up so they can be in those talent pools and to be pulled from. I learned a new terminology. You probably already knew it. I heard of it, but I hadn't really soaked it in. We all know glass ceilings, a concept where, you can kind of hit your head and be limited, but there's also a concept called glass cliffs. So they found that with COVID and with the pandemic and all the craziness that happened with that glass cliff situations are when Black women are called into leadership in very precarious situations, whereas already everything done fell apart. And then they're already put into a very hostile environment, and everyone is basing the success of the organization off of them. So a lot of those women, that leads to burnout and challenges.
Yes.
So I mention all that, and that's just a drop in the bucket. We all know about the pay disparity and other things. So I mentioned that to say, and I think that's an excellent question, is that I think it's really important for women to know what they're up against, again, to armor themselves. Because I remember when I was working in a certain arena, a lot of those issues I personally absorbed without thinking that this has nothing to do with me. These are sometimes other people's perceptions, or these are some of the unconscious biases people bring, or this is just the way the world works. So those challenges aren't anything women can't rise above. I just think that we really need to be prepared and be very strategic. I like to think about you every time I hear that word, because you're just one of the strategic natured people. But it's important to conserve our energy and know how to strategically move so we can get the things and the results we want, and just be prepared to jump some hurdles. Put
Oh,
them running
yes.
shoes on and get ready to jump. This is the Olympics out here.
Yes. During my corporate years, within one of my roles, I'll never forget when I was approached and someone said, "You are perceived being too stern." And I mean, I was taken back. And I said, "I'm too stern?" Yes. We've had some people to say that, they kind of fear you, fear me. Yes, because you're too stern. You need trying to tell me how they wanted me to present myself. But I will say this, and I hope women listening will understand what I'm about to say. Don't allow somebody else to define who you are. Be yourself. And I really took some time to analyze myself, looking at me seriously and asking, am I really too stern? Do I come across? And I thought about it and I said, no, because for the job that I was hired to do, I was getting the results, and I can't help how someone else feels. I really can't. If you are insecure yourself and you come around someone whom some may consider too strong, have that strong personality, then of course you may come across as being too stern. But I have never been an individual who felt I had to go low to step and be true to myself and perform at the level that I know and desire to perform at. So I have never allowed other people to define me. And as long as I live, I never will. And I don't think any of us should, because I'm a woman of faith. And I truly believe we all have been designed with certain gifts, talents, and abilities that makes and shape and mold us to be who we are, so that we can obtain the results that we were brought here to accomplish. So in a nutshell, be yourself, okay? Anything else you'd like to add?
No, you're right. And I like the fact that I think you made a really exceptional point, is that, when we get feedback, consider it, but then definitely soul search, ask, and make sure that you're not picking up someone else's residual reactions.
Absolutely.
And I used to, this is I get asked all the time, how do I move in certain circles, or how do I end up in groups? And like you, woman of faith, and I've always had my philosophy has always been this, aside from when I had my own confidence issues and I fell apart because I was putting too much pressure on myself. But I've always had this philosophy that I'm not responsible for what people have experienced and what they know. And I think to a certain degree, we need to be even patient with that. Some people don't even know that they just limit the way they think about things.
That's right.
But my second part of that philosophy was, I'm about to show you something different. So whatever people bring to the table, I'm going to show you something different, what it looks like to be someone that, holds himself to a certain standard, or can be loving, or can limit myself down so I can hear what you're saying, and then bring the conversation back up so that we can connect. Yes. I think it's so important for women to realize that there's power in weakness. It's not weakness. Last man is weak. But when you choose to understand that we do live in a world where there are those challenges, you're not going to beat those challenges out of people. You're not going to beat the perceptions out of people. No. You got to learn to kind of take, what we've learned from Martin Luther King Jr. and so many other people, a little bit more of that high road. Like Michelle Obama said, we go, we're going to raise up the standard and keep on moving.
Low, we go high.
Yes, ma'am.
That's right. I believe that. And honestly, having confidence in yourself And that's a quality that a good leader possess is, just having the confidence and being able to accept information from others, being a good listener, I think, being a good listener, because if you're the one who has to give advice, give information all the time, how can you learn from anyone else? How can you be better and become a greater leader without being a good listener? So,
Yes.
yes.
I love that. You're right about that. So right.
Yes. All right. There are three ladies that you and I decided that we would like to just say a little couple sentences about. And we're going to start with the first one, and that's Harriet Tubman. I'd like to hear how do you perceive the leadership role of Harriet?
Oh my goodness, to be in a time period where, one could have just crawled up somewhere and just resigned to, once she had made it to freedom, decide that was going to be it.
Yes.
Her drive and her determination to give the gift that other people sometimes fought to not be a part of. There's times she had to pull the gun out to get people
Yes.
to take that full freedom track. I think leaders are visionaries. She
Yes.
did experience the taste and the feeling and the air of freedom. Can you imagine crossing over and feeling that? She said, I will not be the only person to feel this. I'm going back. And true leaders never leave anybody behind. They
No.
refuse to leave anyone. And they're always going the extra distance to bring people into freedom, because they know that when people make it there, it changes life trajectories. It changes everything.
It does. And that's where I think, as individuals, no matter what race you are, when you have been blessed to be successful, I feel that it is our obligation to reach back and pull someone else and help them. That's why I love work. When you and I would meet, I just wanted you to have every bit of information I knew that would help you and I'm looking at you now at what you have accomplished and what you're still accomplishing. And I am so proud, because it takes that. You just can't be a person who want to have it all just for yourself. But when I think of Harriet Tubman, I see this little lady.
She's tiny.
Yeah, she was tiny. This little woman that would stand up to anybody and had a determination that was on fire for freedom, not just for herself, but for her people, and was willing to go the distance. And she did. And I tried to imagine, and it's hard, what it felt like, being hunted like an animal, having to go through everything she experienced time and time again, even after she brought the first group over to freedom. Some people would have said, well, I've done enough. I just didn't do it for myself. I did it for some others. But she didn't stop. And she didn't even stop afterwards. She became very vocal. So I admire her so much. That's why they call her Little Moses, because she was like Moses from the Bible. And she did it with such, and I will say this, she did it with grace. During that time, yes, she did. But she was a woman of faith and trusted God, and she sought him to show her how to get them there. And she followed what God gave her. And look what she accomplished. So we all have been given an assignment. And I think it's so important for us to know what it is. I think when we stay in our lane and do what we've been called to do, that's when we see the greatest works that we can produce, when we're doing what we have been designed to perform. And that is what she did. Harriet Tubman definitely did that. The next woman, Madam C.J. Walker. What is your perception about her?
She's like, she predates Mary Kay. So she was that enterprising woman.
Yes, she was.
She
Yes,
was,
ma'am.
she was out there in the streets, preaching the good gospel about hair care and skin care and doing a little bit of extra reading. And you think about what it takes to be vulnerable and to be out there and to see what could work or help people or assist people and to be the first. That's always the toughest thing. And I think that oftentimes for women, because we don't have context to see others like who we're called to be and those special things that God's placed in us, that it can be very intimidating to be the first and to put boots to the ground and grind and get it done. She did a lot of grinding. And it obviously it brought staggering results because she changed the face of how women not only saw how to care for themselves, but what they saw as enterprising opportunities as well. And today, obviously her legacy still lives on and through some of the things that she's established. And so I think she's a phenomenal woman. I think this is really good because I did say this earlier, it's actually my birthday. So it's kind of neat to be like, oh, it's so great to kind of be reminded from history on where we're still being impacted by such great women. It's a beautiful.
Yes, we are. And as you mentioned about Madam C.J. Walker, yes, she was before Mary Kay in direct sales. She was the first. And she was the first self-made female millionaire. First. And, it took a lot of grit.
A lot.
It did for her to accomplish what she did at that particular time, because that was around the period of the Great Depression. And this woman, a Black woman, was able to do what she did, and she empowered other women. That's what I love. She empowered other women. She was smart enough to know, and ladies, listen to this. She was smart enough to realize, hey, if I'm going to be very successful at this, if I'm going to make money, I can't do this by myself. I got to bring some women along with me, and we're going to do this together, and we're going to be successful. That's what WomeNomics is about. That's it in a nutshell, because WomeNomics is something that all of us, yesterday, today, and tomorrow as women, we're always going to face women in economic development. We are, and our financial future. So these ladies of that period, look what they have done. Now we have one more, and that's Shirley Chisholm.
Love her. First Black woman at Congresswoman, which was, amazing itself. And I read some part where it said that she would get locked out of meetings. I mean, there were so many negative things that she experienced, so much blatantly negative. So I think I'm really inspired by her perseverance and for her keeping her eye on the prize and for just being fearless in her execution, her energy, her integrity, maintaining that consistent leadership, and knowing that it's not really about changing the entire scope of everything. I think sometimes we look at problems as women and we get really intimidated when we know we can't change everything, but there's a power of chipping away at the problem. And because of her chipping, it created a doorway crack for other women to elbow and get in and create opportunities for themselves. Right. One thing I do love that I read here that it says, and I'll just read it because I don't want to get it wrong. She said, one thing that she wanted to be known for her legacy is, she said, I wanted to be remembered as a woman who dared to be a catalyst of change. Yes. And I love that, who dared to be. And she was daring in everything she did. So she's quite the role model for us all.
Yes, she is. And what I loved about her, when she stepped up and claimed her seat at the table of public discussions and made the difference. And that was her advice. The advice she is still here with us today. And that is, if they don't give you a seat at the table,
Yes.
bring a
Wheelchair.
folding chair, okay?
Yes.
That-
I
you
love
will
that
be
quote.
in the room. You will be in the room. You will have a voice. So, oh, Victoria, we could go on for hours about this. It wasn't enough time for this one. It wasn't. This was
No.
good.
We'll have to
But
do a
one
part
thing-
2 or something.
We're going to have to do a part 2. We will, and we probably will do it next month during Women's History Month.
Ooh,
So we
okay,
can continue the dialogue.
that'd be
But
great.
I want individuals, organizations, companies who see you and would love to connect with you and perhaps even hire you. How can they connect with Ms. Victoria Baylor?
Well, it's very easy. Again, I'm an executive leadership coach, organizational development consultant. My job is to connect individuals to their purpose, the mission, goals, connect communities, organizations, all of that. I'm very easy to find. I am self-branded. So if you go to victoriabaylor.com, you can find me there. I'm on LinkedIn under that name as well. Please don't be a stranger. Reach out. I'd love to have conversations. Let's have a virtual coffee. Talk about where you're at and where you desire to be. But that's me. And then also you can call my number, which is on my website. So definitely go there and you grab that. And that's me.
Reach out to Victoria. You've heard her here today. She's amazing and she can make a difference for you. I know she can. So as always, before we go, happy birthday, Victoria. Today is your birthday. So happy birthday and many, many more. I hope you are enjoying today. And I thank you for taking time out of your birthday to be here with me
This is a
today.
highlight. Oh, this is a highlight. This just filled my cup. Thank you.
Well, just know how much you are loved and appreciated.
Thank you.
Ladies, the time is now for WomeNomics. We can make a difference. The change we want, we must do it together as women. So until next time, here's to your success.